Today I'm talking with Holly Rothman, somatic coach, and I would like to hear actually from Holly a few words, Holly, about yourself and your work in the world.
Yeah, thank you. I'm excited for our conversation today. I'm a somatic executive coach, and my passion is for working with women leaders and HR leaders, and especially during the periods of their lives where they're going through a transition of some sort. Often this brings a higher level of stress and pressure, and also brings a deeper desire to really show up in a different way to have more impact and what's important to them in their lives, their work, and more energy and to feel more at home in their own soma or their own bodies. Yeah.
Thank you. Holly, what is somatic coaching?
Somatic coaching is a methodology of coaching that works with the soma or with the body. So it's really about taking a mind awareness that you have and utilizing practices through the body, a different way of looking at, that awareness deepening and engaging with it, whether that be habits or patterns that are no longer working for you. A great example might be if you just wrote a book, you want to present it out to the world, but you tend to feel quite comfortable being kind of small and narrow,
Mhm.
and you know this about yourself. So even though you know it doesn't mean when you show up you can change it. So we work with awareness, and it's based in mindfulness, aikido, many disciplines, ancient disciplines, to help that person to practice a new way of showing up
Mhm.
that is more in alignment with what they're moving towards. So we say bringing more aliveness into to the way they go about achieving their goals.
Mhm. Thank you.
Yeah.
And what are, you mentioned practices in the context of somatic coaching. So what do you mean by practices?
Yes, great. So a lot of our practices are based in both mindfulness and Aikido. So for example, one of the core principles that we use in somatic coaching is, are we on purpose? Are we open? And are we connected? So we want to stay in relationship.
Mhm.
So are we actually connected into our body? Like, are we in our dignity or our right? So can we be a little taller and yet soft so that we're in our grounded state, which means that we're not up in our head. Like if you walk from center Anna or you walk like hurried, or worried, it changes everything. So can I be in my dignity and stay here in my space? Can I stay in relationship with others? This is a practice, right? So do I narrow myself under pressure, or can I be more open? And I think another one is really just coming back to present moment again. So if something happens in a meeting that's a stress trigger, how can I recognize it? That's the awareness. Then what are my practices? Could be that I need to take a breath. Could be that I need to blend with something, which is an Aikido term, right? But it's really a softening of saying, oh, I see you there. And this is what I need to get back to center. And now let me see what's really here so that I can now connect with like what's important to me, my goal or my commitment. And now I can respond. So
Mhm.
it really is, they're really like micro shifts in what we do. So practices look different for each person. Some of my clients, we practice the Jokata, which is a harmonizing energy. But the cool thing about the Jokata, we teach clients steps 1 through 8, is that it really shows you like, how do you learn? Like, how do you show up and learn something new? So even in the study of yourself,
Mhm.
how do you study? Like, if I say I want to be playful, but I'm doing the Jo very serious, like, how do I embody playful? Or if I want to be open and I want to take up more space, do I do my Jo in a very small way? So that's one example, but there are many that we utilize.
So from what you said, I hear like practices are something that you have to do before the change happens. It's almost like building capacity for the change to.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
That's such a beautiful way of saying it, is building capacity. Because if you think about the way we react, especially under stress, it's all wired in our nervous system.
Mm.
We go back and we think and we rationalize, right? Like we say, oh, yes, I did this and this. But actually, most of what we do is very sort of automatic. So the capacity building is, first, let me recognize that I have this tendency or this automatic, reaction. Then we want to, in a way, disrupt it. But in somatics, we say we want to blend with it. So maybe that blend for me is that I need to take a breath and touch my stomach.
Mhm.
Now I'm back to my centered breath. And then what am I practicing? from there, right? And then the more I do that, what happens is then that becomes the new automatic response.
Mhm.
So then that actually saves capacity for higher level thinking, which is great because instead of fighting myself to override the reaction, now my body's practiced it enough that this is a new option. That's what we talk about a lot in the method I'm trained in, the Strozzi method, is more skillful action, especially under pressure.
Oh, that's nice. Sounds
Yeah.
really nice. Like it sounds like
Yeah,
the ability to pause and to choose in this moment of stress.
exactly. Yeah. And then the more you have your body like in alignment with that, because you and I both know that, for example, if I'm a person that, when someone gives me feedback, if I immediately go into my narrative of like, oh, I wonder why they're giving me feedback. Well, I know that about myself, but then how do I catch it before it goes down the story? And then before it goes too far, how do I come back? So there's a real opening there. There's like this capacity to change what's possible.
Mhm.
And from there, the practices, it's kind of interesting because it happens like I'll have clients after a few sessions say, wow, that no is so much easier. I'm not even sure how it is because they've been practicing it, right? It starts to happen automatically the same way that the habit you didn't like was happening. So yes, it's building capacity to be able to have that kind of override old behaviors. Yeah.
Yeah, I really like what you're saying because this is what exactly happened when I started working with embodiment and asking clients to practice this new way of being, like a centered way of being, whichever, some people need more dignity, some need to be more open, and it depends, right? So this new way of being showing up when they started practicing at home mindfully, just simply practicing when they didn't need it. Suddenly, with the time, they were able, in the moments of stress, in the moments where something was at stake, to change their behaviors. So it
Yeah.
wasn't the big thing like I'm gonna go on a stage and speak to people. This is going to change my life. Actually, no, it's very interesting. It's the really this little steps every day, the little shifts that you're mentioning made all the
Mhm.
difference.
Yeah, that's such a great example and really important to say that it's not that you practice only when it's high stakes. I remember being in an airport in Barcelona and I had been through meetings all weekend and the airport, everything was canceled. And so then I noticed that people were starting to bump into me. And then I said, oh, I'm not standing tall. I've kind of gotten narrow. I'm totally thinking about how am I going to get home. And so I kind of recentered as I was walking because this is something we do in action, right? And then I sort of opened myself up and softened my gaze, started walking, and then people were just like moving out of the way. So it can be very playful, how we're showing up. Our practice is who we become. So if even if I'm interacting with my child, it's like, can I maybe she's pushed my buttons, right? It's like, can I stay in center and still be with her and then respond from there versus being pulled forward,
Mhm.
crazy, because every parent that can happen. But how do I practice in the small moments in between? It
Mhm.
becomes a way of being, which is what I really think is so important for leaders is that they really are looking for ways that they can have these micro shifts, these micro practices. It's not hard,
Mhm.
but Anya, I have a question for you. Like when you work with your coachees, what is it an embodiment that is the biggest aha for people?
What is in the embodiment, you mean?
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
I think the biggest aha is when people really allow themselves to feel fully what they embody in any given moment. It doesn't matter whether like I try to help them in this moment to embody when they are like angry. But the
Mm-hmm.
moment they really embody and feel it in their body, what's going on with them physically, how they stand, how they hold their body, what's going on internally, and what is the story with that, when they truly, truly feel it, something shifts. And
Mm-hmm.
they just suddenly can be with that. And
Mm-hmm.
that's huge moment, I think, for people. Also,
Yeah.
when we start to together, when we work and we start to like figuring out what is the place, the this way of being, your embodiment, when you are totally centered, when you are in your power, when you are at ease at the same time and you are powerful and you can convey the message whichever you want, like of your purpose or vision, and they start practicing and how easy it is. That's like what you mentioned about the airport, like the doors are opening, people are moving
Mm,
out of your way. Uh,
yeah.
so they notice that how powerful it is uh, to um, to embody what you want and to have the presence that conveys the message so powerfully yet with ease,
Yes.
not
I
push.
think two things you said that really resonate for me. One of the things really is important is like you allow your clients to embody anger. Yes. Because actually this work is about actually being able to be with more. So I can be fully angry and I can still be centered, but I really need to explore what is anger for me. I really need to feel permission that I don't have to override it because that's what we do. We override, we disassociate, we escape. So, like, can I just have my full anger and then see what happens to me when that happens? And then I'm very aware of it and I can still be angry, allow myself anger and still be centered,
Yeah.
you know? So it's interesting because you learn that you don't have to say like that's not okay. You can still be angry, but you're centered. You can be with anger and you can be with joy. Like you can have more of all emotion at the same time, which sounds a little bit funny, but it's the allowance of it versus the sort of polite way that you think you're supposed to behave, which is just performing. It's not really authentic and people feel it, you know?
Yeah.
Um, yeah. And then the ease is so fascinating, isn't it? Because then what happens is that we say words, but our body doesn't like really align with it.
Mhm.
So if I am trying to, let's say I'm trying to like promote myself or something, maybe I had a person I was working with in sales and they said, every time I go to really like express my value, I get this like frog in my throat because the pushing out or the forcing, the performing, there's something there.
Mhm.
And they need to be able to be with that and then be able to blend with that. And that means that they are just able to accept it. It's probably never going away, but instead of controlling, they have more ease to like allow their full selves. I mean, this is really important, right? Like we can be fully ourselves. There's no like desire to be perfect. It's more like, can I come back into like a place of ease
Mhm.
where I can be more on purpose?
Mhm.
It's yeah,
And I want to build on that frog in your throat because
yeah,
I had that. I had the lymph years ago. And I remember with my own coach when we went there and I really fully embodied, I really felt it. I had the sensory awareness of what it is and how it feels and where it is and how big it is and what does it do to me? It
yeah,
dissolved. It never came back.
yeah.
And
That's
I did that with
amazing.
my clients that they come and we do it in our session. This is very like common, I think, thing or
Hmm.
point in our body that comes. Many people come with that. And when they really truly, but you really have to allow yourself to go there and feel it fully. When you fully feel it, when you fully embody it,
Yeah.
it loses its power. And many
Hmm.
many people just come and say, this never come back to me. I don't know what's happened. Like it's not showing up when I meet with those people. Like usually if I would met with this person, I would had that. It's not coming back.
Yeah.
So
It's really profound, this piece around just allowing, you've allowed that to be present, and that sometimes is enough to allow the softening. We have a couple of steps in somatics where we utilize a lot of self-compassion towards ourselves, because most of what I see is my clients come up and they say, I don't like this part about myself, and they're fighting with themselves. And actually in Aikido, which is a harmonizing of energy, we learn to work with the energy that we have, right? So if I could be like 5'3" and the attacker could be 6 feet tall, but as they come with me, the more I'm able to allow that full force of energy and full acceptance of myself, the more fluid I am, the less it hits me, right? And there's a piece of that which is I am 5'3", I'm not 6 feet tall. But when the energy comes to me, if I can fully be like able to accept all parts of me, then somehow I can maybe even like let it pass me by, or I can go with it versus fighting it. And then things change because I'm no longer fighting this thing that's so much bigger than me. And that's the frog in the throat. It's like, yeah, I'm here. And I'm going to keep screaming until you do something with me. It's like, acknowledge, like, and blend with, like, go with the energy. So um, for me, I find this work really transformational, but also like life affirming, you know? So we spend a lot of time talking about what we don't want in life, but how often do we move towards what we want? Like, how often do we have that chance to say, yeah, like my work is not just a goal. It's maybe it's my legacy, or maybe it's my, I don't know what gives me like energy, right? And then how do I move towards it in a way that feels truly invigorating, you know? So I think for me, I find more energy through this work. Um, and and then also just this feeling like you can have the impact without feeling completely drained. Do you know, I mean, that's the one thing we haven't touched upon, which is like, how do you find there really is no such thing as balance, is there? I mean, really, because we're always in, but can we come back to a moment of centered? Yes. And then we fall out again. Like the master falls in and out continuously, right? But the ability to come back, okay, I'm back. It's very energizing.
Mhm.
So I don't fight with this idea that I'll find this perfect balance and then I'm like holding on for dear life. I hope I can stay here. No, because I know I can always come back. So then I don't have to fight with this notion of finding this utopia of balance. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah.
And for that, you need really this embodied awareness that you're out of balance first. You
Yeah.
need to have the practices you mentioned before that will take you back to your balance.
Yeah.
And so you have that. And then from that, the world looks differently. You take different decisions. You're more creative. You're more resourceful. You're on ease. You know what to do more. Like you pretty much have your vision opens also, right?
Yeah.
Physically in this moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have
Definitely.
more to choose from. You actually can choose.
Yeah. You see new possibility.
Mhm.
And and we didn't talk about this, but that even that concept of resilience, it like it lives within you. So we find this connection. So even if I said I feel more courageous, but where does courage live within me? Like what does that mean? Like I can actually feel it, right? Versus just self-talk myself into it or motivate. It feels different,
Mhm.
you know? Yeah.
One more question, Holly.
Mm,
The question will be around, let me ask the question. So, how would you, let's say you have leaders, like people in a leadership position, why would leaders would should come to somatic coach versus maybe coaches that call themselves like executive, coaches or leadership coaches, and you're a somatic coach, like, like why should they come to you?
yeah. For me, the real response here is that leaders that are seeking out more embodiment or somatic methods, they're looking for a deeper level beyond just the surface awareness. So they may have had that, could be through like a performance feedback, but they deeply are searching something that is more lasting. A great example is a senior leader who was a technical expert, but really wanted to be perceived as like trusting, that really wanted to be perceived as someone you'd want to follow, right? The organization was going through a very tough time. Wanted to be a person who could use more of their capacity of intuition
Mhm.
to see threat, right? So these are things that are a deeper way in which you either use communication or you're able to lean into conflict in a way that generates better results, deeper relationships. And this takes the ability for a leader to be able to be very grounded, right? Their technical expertise is there clearly, and they're looking for something different to round out their skill sets. Really, this for me is where I see leaders get the most out of this.
Mhm.
Yeah,
So there's something about like it's not about some outside methods from outside, like do those three steps, then you will get those results from people. But it's like you actually have to start from yourself.
that's it.
Mhm.
Yeah. And this sounds interestingly, if it were so easy, why can't I just go there on my own? And this is a very interesting concept. So most of the way that we are has been shaped in us so repeatedly, whether that's where we grew up, that could be our culture, it could be the gender we associate with. It could be the schools we went to, right? It
Mhm.
could even be whether you grew up in a big city or out in the countryside. And
Mhm.
these things about us are so shaped into us that they kind of run on autopilot. So when leaders come to me, they're saying, hey, I want to show up in a different way. This thing isn't working. Can we look at this together? And it really does help to have a coach that walks beside you, right? That helps you find the answer, but really is there as a objective container that provides the space to do that exploration. And for most leaders I work with, even the vulnerability to be able to say, I think I could be different. I desire something different for my leadership or for my life, for my legacy. Very few people in their lives can provide that type of space, right? That type of training or skill set. So I think that this is a work that is much better done together with a coach, and even in a group dynamic if you had that opportunity, because we can often learn from one another as well, right? Um, I mean, the greatest Anya. This one thing happened to me in the embodiment training. You went to it too. Do you remember the rondori? The rondori. Did you do this in your embodiment training? So
But maybe
the
I don't
rondori
remember the
comes
name.
from Aikido, yeah. And in the rondori, you're in the center, and you have a circle of people coming at
Oh,
you.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
often used,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. And as the people come to you, they're coming with requests. Even this right here can send people, right? And as they come to you, you have to either decline their request, right? Or you accept their request, but you have to turn them around. And it's just like multitasking, right? So much comes up when you're in the rondori. So if you're a person that hasn't even heard the request, you're already saying no, or you're a person like me that like waits, analyzes, that's a no, but now the person's like in your face. So it shows a lot about how we literally do show up in a certain way, right? And so through this type of work and utilizing other methodologies that are ancient, it helps us say, oh yeah, I do that. Yeah, I had no idea, right? And then, oh, maybe, and this again is the micro shift, maybe if I could listen deeper to that request and understand what a real no feels like I embody that no, it's not on purpose, right? Or it's a yes, let's walk together. I
Mhm.
can respond a little bit more intentionally from a place of like a centered yes or no.
Mhm.
And imagine the energy I get back for not like procrastinating, putting off. Like this is leadership, I think, at its best. Yeah.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you for this
Yeah.
conversation. And if people would like to find out about you more, where are you based? Where can they find you in media, social?
Yeah. Please follow me on LinkedIn at Holly Rotman. And also my website is just hollyrotman.com, and on LinkedIn, on Instagram, the same. So easy to find me.